Hi, everyone. Welcome to Here for the Health of It podcast. We have a great show for you today. We have Nichols Scarnecchia, former Miss America South Carolina and the owner of the More Concept. She helps people who are in the social media world and businesses in their social media and branding. She gets into all things pageants and business. So I hope you enjoy. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Here for the Health of It. We are Columbia's hottest podcast. I'm Dr. Randy, here with Dr. Tom. As always, we have a great show for you. We have the former Miss America South Carolina, Morgan. Can you say your last name?
Scarnecchia.
And you're the owner of the More Concept.
That's correct.
And you're a fitness instructor with, do you want to say who?
Absolutely. Studio Fire.
Yes, love Studio Fire. And we appreciate you being on the show.
Well, thanks for having me. I've been pumped.
That's great. So you do all these different things. You have a ton of different hats.
I do wear a lot of different hats. I like to say I'm often a mile wide and a foot deep on a lot of different things, but it makes for great conversation.
That's right.
There's a million ways we could go with it here today. But yeah, so I'm an instructor at Studio Fire. I was former Miss South Carolina and still am involved, which has been so wonderful. And recently just left my corporate job.
Whoa.
And
how recent?
About 6 months now. Yeah, so I'm pretty fresh. I will say, though, I've been an entrepreneur since I was in the school store in elementary school. And then in college, what does every good Southern college woman want?
A husband.
That's a quarterback.
Okay. Number two. What is especially in the summer football season, a spray tan. All right. So
that was
not even in the top 100.
I would never have said
thinking,
that.
I'm up at Clemson. Why don't I buy this $250 spray tan machine off of Amazon?
Wow.
I was making $500 a week giving girls a spray tan machine.
Just in your dorm?
Well, yes, it was in my dorm.
Wow.
I started out just doing my friends, and I was charging $10, which in comparison to the professional spray tan place down the road, $30.
Yeah.
So for a college student on a budget, that was huge.
Would they have to be totally naked for it?
So you get to choose, right?
You get to choose.
Okay.
I did recommend it, but I will say that taught me how to give and do a lot of small talk. Because in that situation, you just got to keep the small talk going, make them feel comfortable, and
so that was probably the first time you've seen some of your friends naked. You're just like, "Hey, come over here."
We got really close.
Take off
Why
all your
weren't we
clothes.
Why wasn't I doing tanning stuff when I was in college?
My husband,
for all the fraternities?
hey, I was making $500 a week doing these spray
great.
tans.
That is good.
And it got to a point where, and I just started, doing my friends, doing myself. And then the dorm manager emailed me one day and said, "Sorry, you can't run a business in the dorm room."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Well, I'm honored you think this was a business, but this was really something I just decided to do on the side." And it turned into kind of my first entrepreneurship journey. And here I am. So it's been so awesome. I will say, y'all like to play fantasy football?
Dabble.
Okay. So my husband's big into fantasy football.
Yeah. And real football.
And real football as well. But obviously they always have something for the loser to do. So I am advocating for this year, the loser has to get a spray tan.
That's great. I love that. And a bad one. A bad spray tan.
Absolutely.
Now, how was your work? Was your work good? Like when you were spraying, like the outcomes were pretty.
Absolutely.
Really?
I mean, of course I'm going to pride myself in the spray tan.
Yeah.
Watch some YouTube videos, learned how to do the, strokes and make sure they were not splotchy or anything. And
Yep. And is a lot of it dependent upon the liquid or the machine?
I would say liquid and technique. I mean, you go into the type of liquid, right? You want to make sure it's organic, that it's not breaking the skin out, because it is all over your body for a good amount of time. Mm-hmm. And then the layering is the most important. And I honestly was not coming today thinking we were prepared to talk about spray tan, but we can dive deep into that.
I know nothing about spray tans.
Well,
literally zero.
I know. And one of the young woman's mom the girl came to me often. She said, "Thank you so much for doing this because my daughter stopped going to the tanning bed." And so that was really impactful for me to hear, especially as, someone who really prides and loves women's health, and to be able to provide that opportunity for someone to not go to the tanning bed where they were, exposing themselves to potential skin cancer. So it turned into more than just a job. It turned into a little mission for me as well. So that was the start of my entrepreneurial
So it's still
journey.
chemicals, though. Like I've always thought of it as just spraying chemicals all over your body, but it sounds
It's
like
a
there's
solution. It's a
different
solution of
types.
bronzers, right? And
It's kind of like makeup for your whole body.
exactly makeup for your whole body,
And you
there
have to
is
do it
some
every-
kind of confidence that you get when you are just a little
It does
bit
look
tanner.
good. It does look good.
Yep.
I
But
have to
now
say.
the tanning bed obviously is a no, but I will tell you what is a yes
The
for
sun.
me recently.
Today's episode is brought to you by our sponsor, Columbia Family Chiropractic, with 3 easy-to-get-to locations, one in Forest Acres, which is by Trader Joe's, one in O'Neill Court by the DMV, and one in the Northeast by Sand Hills. You'll be sure to have somewhere near you. They offer a ton of services from corrective care, on-site digital x-rays, spinal decompression for bulging or herniated discs, dry needling for injuries, pediatric care, and a Class 4 laser. They accept all your major insurances. And if you mention this ad, you'll get a discount on your first appointment. Check out their website at cfc4health.com or Google Columbia Family Chiropractic. That's cfc4for health.com.
The sun, I do love the sun, but no, the red light bed.
Yes.
When I used to go to the tanning bed way back in my day, and yes, my mom told me I would regret it, and I do. So shout out to Mom, you were right. She's probably gonna replay that over and over again.
Big fan of the show.
Yes, she is.
What's her name?
Her name's Brenda. So
Brenda.
She works with Susie, right?
she does work with Susie.
She does?
Well, she
Yes.
works with
That's-
Susie with Tulip. She works with Lex and Chaz with Parlor. So
Nice.
you see where I get my many hats
Yes.
from. It is from my mother.
Brenda sounds great.
She is great, and she's always got something to say, which I love her. But it's cool how you take on qualities from your mother, but you also take on the exact opposite qualities from your mother. So it's interesting, but I give it. I love my mom. I love my dad too. But so shout out to Brenda. You were right for telling me not to go to the tanning bed. There was something so special about the tanning bed, and that was just the warmth and experience you got from being in there, right? And recently, I have gotten that same warmth and experience from, and this is not, I mean, it's what I'm on, and it just happens to be here in this building, and that is the red light bed.
Yeah.
I mean, it is bringing me back to that when you got in the tanning bed, and it is that cocoon of warmth, and you feel so just peaceful. That the red light bed has been my new thing as well. So
Yes.
That's it. You really like red light. Like when you found out that we had it, Tom said that you were like, oh, I'm into red light.
Instant.
I am. So for really a majority of my life, I've suffered from acne. So I can remember 4th grade getting made fun of from just severe acne all over my face. And I started going to an esthetician when I was young because of my acne. So I blame my, love and obsession for skincare on that starting at a young age. But one of the things that I have really dove deep into is red light. And I first got exposed to that because of my esthetician and treating my acne. So acne is obviously severely inflamed. And for me, I was someone who just kept picking at it and would continue boosting that inflammation, right? Like it never truly healed. And so once I got under the red light, you could totally tell a difference in that inflammation. And it was incredible for my face, right? So when I heard about the red light bed, I actually heard about the red light bed from Kim Kardashian. I'm not gonna lie.
Really?
Yep. That's when I first heard that it was a thing.
Like a whole bed.
A whole bed,
That point,
exactly. And I'm a science person at heart. That was my education. I studied genetics, so I like to dive into, is this actually, what is this actually doing for me, right? And so I did a little research, went on a little research pub, and, started to understand exactly what it was doing. And then when I heard about the red light bed, that it was applicable for your whole body, I couldn't help but say no. So it's been awesome. I will say like we said earlier, I'm a fitness instructor, and so I'm constantly on my wrists, like in a plank or in a chaturanga and yoga. And so my wrists get a lot of trauma, and it's been bothering me recently, and started going to the red light bed, and Haven't had any
Voila.
pain since. So make sure you clip that one and use as your promotion because you need a testimonial. I'm here for you.
That's awesome.
What
Great to
settings
hear.
are you doing? Because there's different settings in there, right? Depending on what you're targeting.
So obviously the different wavelengths of light can have different benefits. And I'm someone who I love efficiency. That has always been one of my biggest pet peeves is when things are not efficient.
Yes, I'm with you.
And so I go in there, of course I'm going to do the one that has all of the wavelengths of light. So I do the pain. And it's been incredible. It's 15 minutes. I go in there. They've got the Bluetooth. So, I said I like efficiency, so I like to habit stack my things. And one of the things I love to listen to are podcasts when it comes to learning about things.
Yeah.
So that's how I've been learning recently, out of college. That's how, if there's a particular topic that I want to learn more on, and now being an entrepreneur, I want to be a thought leader and I want to stay on top of my craft. And the way I do that are through podcasts. So I get in the red light bed, I attach my podcast to the speaker in there, and for 15 minutes, I lay in there, get a little, rest for my body, and listen to a podcast and learn something new. So it's been a really cool experience. And I think, y'all are the only
one in like 100 miles.
100 miles, which is absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. Kudos to Colombia.
Colombia's hottest chiropractors just providing red light therapy.
Famously hot Colombia is coming through. And I will say, I've always been super involved in the health and wellness world. And I have also been someone who, and as from Colombia, right, you always think the grass is greener. I'm going to move to New York. I want to move to Dallas. I want to move to even Charlotte and Greenville. But Colombia has been where it is at lately, especially in the health and fitness world. We have the highest boutique fitness studio per capita in South Carolina. Yep.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Wow.
We need some of that out here in the Northeast.
Y'all do need some of that out here in the Northeast.
But I do love that there's tons of options.
Yeah,
For
sure. So I was at Studio Fire today and had a jam-packed class of 40 plus people. So I think people in Colombia are open and very eager for health.
Are you seeing people sticking with it? Like, do you see a lot of people come and go? I always wonder the stickiness of, because there are so many options, how much turnover in the gym goer space is there?
So for me, and I think I've seen a lot of this, especially with kind of the target market that comes to Studio Fire, and really the evolution of how we view fitness. So growing up, I severely suffered from an eating disorder, and it just being a young woman and comparing myself, right? Like it's very applicable to that age 8 to 20, and I definitely suffered from that. And so fitness to me used to be torture. Like you went in there to eat the pizza that you ate last night, or in college it was to burn off the game changers that I had at home team, right? It was a form of doing something that I regret, so I needed to go do this. And now what I think we're seeing, and I really associate social media a lot with this, and pushing this thought, is the beauty of movement and how that makes you the best version of yourself. And so a lot of the people, and I'll start with me. The shift for me and how I went from seeing fitness as pushing,
a way to eat an extra Oreo.
And really being so not committed to it, right? Like it was only when that specific event happened in my life where I felt this specific way. So I became more sustainable with it when I understood that there was joy in it, that there was purpose beyond the torture. Like it wasn't meant to torture, it was meant to boost me forward instead of compensate for what I did before. And so seeing that shift, I'm seeing a lot more commitment to the craft, right? I'm seeing a lot more understanding of how movement and really health as a whole can make you be your best self. It seems like something so simple, but it's something that people don't understand and it's something that impacts my life every day. But if you give your body the things that it needs, it will thrive.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah.
it can heal itself.
Yes.
And obviously there are situations that come about, but if you give your body the things that it needs to thrive and to function, you won't need to be on 10 medications.
Right.
And so that, I mentioned with me, having an eating disorder, and that looking back was really what has made me now so passionate about that statement.
Yes.
And just how good I feel when I do focus on my health and
Yeah.
do focus on movement and getting all of that in. So it's become a really big passion of mine with, health in general and women's health specifically.
Yeah. And I love that you're passionate about this and coming from a genetics background. So, because
Yeah.
I feel like this is good for listeners to dive in. We'll go a little more serious on the health side of this. We look at the body similar to what you're saying, that the body is designed for health and it can heal itself, right? A lot of people are hung up with, I just got bad genetics and I can't do anything about that. And what they don't realize is like epigenetics and how you can turn on and off genes through what you're describing. Red light therapy, eating right, drinking enough water, movement. And they're all fundamental things that would completely eliminate most chronic diseases. And listening to a podcast on that, the science is there. It's just that we're starting to finally get people talking about it and living it. Whereas
Absolutely.
before it was like just the crazy chiropractors and the oil pushers and they were in this category of like alternative health, when the whole time we're like, no, this is health. All the medication and stuff, that's not health. And so it's cool to hear, like, with your background in genetics and that kind of thing, did they talk about any of the like lifestyle things?
So I actually did a research study on epigenetics. That was like my
Nice.
grand project at the end of college. I went to Clemson University, studied genetics, minored in business, and that was my final research study. And in that research study, I focused on working out and movement and how that pertained to epigenetics.
Yes.
And like you just said, it has the ability to turn off those
Bad genes that we all
genes.
have.
Correct. So epigenetics is literally above genetics. Like that's what the term means. And so it is, getting a little nerdy here, methylation of your genes that pretty much tightens your genes so much that nothing can get in there to transcribe your genes. And so when you eat the right foods and when you work out and do movement and things like red light therapy, it allows those genes to open up and ultimately be transcribed.
Yes.
And so unfortunately, no, I did not learn any of those lifestyle things. I think I was raised and I have hope that we're kind of coming out of this. And I think COVID, as bad as it was, I think it really opened our eyes to things like this. But quick fixes, that was the name of the game. Like Amazon was coming out. You've got Netflix. Like the name of the game was quick, fast. And don't get me wrong, I love next day prime delivery. But when I started thinking about health in a day-to-day fashion rather than, okay, how am I going to fix this? How am I going to put a Band-Aid over that? It completely changed my physical life, my mental life. And at the end of the day, everything is hard, right? Have you seen that meme on Instagram when it's like,
You get to
choose your heart, right?
Yes,
Like it is hard to get up sometimes and go work out, but it's also hard to be sedentary and start feeling, bad mentally and physically. So for me, I knew I wanted to choose that direction, and I have a lot to thank for that shift in mindset because of my husband. So my husband played football for Carolina, and he learned a lot of that there. So shout out to the football team because they really pushed those lifestyle choices, and they really pushed those non-quick fixes. And he instilled that in me. So very grateful for that.
Yeah. I mean, he looks fit.
I mean, I am a little biased,
Yeah.
but I can tell you he's fit.
Yeah. We'd love to see a shirtless photo of him at some point, but not right now. We don't have to do it right now.
I mean, we can also do one. You can maybe pop it up on the screen.
No, I guess along those lines, how So for the guys listening, would you say the only way to land a Miss South Carolina is to be a Division I college football player?
I mean, it's
What are all right?
It
What are
worked for me.
tips? Yeah, what are tips you would
Tips
say?
to land a Miss South
Yeah,
Carolina.
yeah. Or like a pageant girl, like just give the guys out there that are just hopeful that they could have Miss South Carolina at some point in their life.
Well, there's not many of us, so
Right. You gotta, I mean, that's what we're thinking. Your husband's in the top 0.0001%. It's great.
Well, I think one of the things about all the Miss South Carolinas is they're always trying to be the best version of themselves.
Right.
And that's what really drew me to Michael, because it was continuously, he had drive, he had ambition, and that matched really well with mine. And so we've kind of played off of that with each other, and it's worked really well. And I will say,
I like that.
so Michael,
When you say Michael, it sounds like my goal.
oh, it might be my Southern accent coming out a little bit.
I was hearing
so
Michael, too.
Michael, he was the quarterback that never lost, right? That's his claim to fame.
Yeah.
He went in for one game, and but he won the game.
That's it.
So he was back up to Jake Bentley. And so he went in and he won the game. And I didn't know him at this time. It was a game against Missouri. My parents were there, so it's kind of funny that it comes full circle. It was pouring down rain. He went in and won the game. Obviously, doing a great performance, he wanted to start again. Like, he felt like he should have started, as any athlete would, and he didn't get that opportunity. And so for me, being Miss South Carolina and going to Miss America and thinking I should win Miss America and put a lot of hard work, and then I didn't, that was a really shared experience that we had. And then also just being kind of in the spotlight, and believe me, we're no near where some people are, but you start to really get a special connection with that experience, because you deal with a lot of trolls in a lot of ways, and just the pressure that comes with that. And we're both perfectionists, and so balancing how to be somebody and be someone with big dreams and goals. But with big dreams and goals comes a lot of negativity and trolls and, people trying to tear you down. And so we've both had that experience, on a smaller level. And so it's allowed us, I'm probably going deeper than what you wanted to
listen,
hear.
this is good.
But
And
those
we
two
know that,
The guys
because
need
we're
it.
the Columbia's hottest podcast.
Yeah, we get it.
yeah,
We're
and y'all
just
get
getting
it. Y'all
fired.
get
We
it.
get it.
So that experience.
But I like
is
what you're
kind of-
saying is like the connection, though, is like the drive. Like, just like you were saying, for a pageant girl, they're always looking to better themselves. And I think guys need to hear that there isn't like a stopping point. You should continue to work out, learn more, work harder, like just all the things.
Yeah, you guys do work really hard to better yourself. Like, you have to have the look, then
Coaches.
you have to public speak, then you have to have the fitness, then you have to have basically a cause or a nonprofit or something that you're doing. It just, the list
like
never
you're well
ends.
educated in the Miss South Carolina
Oh,
world.
yeah.
I'm really impressed.
I'm always impressed by them, because there's so many different things you can't just go off your looks.
Correct.
You can't just
Well,
go
and
off your
it's truly
achievements.
so much more than that. And I don't consider myself a pageant girl, to be honest.
Is pageant girl the right word?
Well, it has a negative.
Is it-
I don't know.
It has
Did you
a
make that up?
negative. It can have a negative stigma, right? Because of the incorrect interpretation of what it really means. So you've probably got to learn a lot more about the pageant world, and that's not necessarily why I say that. I say that more because I didn't grow up doing pageantry. It was my senior year in Clemson, and I told my mom, I'm gonna do something that you're not gonna like, because I had wanted to do pageants my whole life, but she did not. I mean, I wanted to be in Miss Chill and Strut, Miss
Really?
Pilly and Peanut, Miss Tobacco Festival. Wow. She would not let me do that. And so, getting to that stage of my life, senior year of Clemson, the Miss America organization had 10-minute interviews. They had resumes that the judges looked to before. They had an impeccable amount of scholarship opportunities. And so I sat her down and said, Mom, I'm going to do something that you're probably not going to like, and I'm going to tell you right now. And she said, oh gosh, are you pregnant? Are you going to be married? Like, what's going to happen your senior year of college? And I said, I'm going to do Miss Clemson, but probably not going to win. So I go out, I do Miss Clemson. This was so when they had swimsuit. I wore a bathing suit from Target. I borrowed the dress off of Facebook Marketplace.
Wow.
And I just went out and did it and ended up winning Miss Clemson, which was such an incredible opportunity. I got such an awesome board of people that started investing in me, right? That's the coolest thing for these girls to go through is the personal development that you get. So started really discovering, okay, what do I think about these issues?
Sure.
What should my resume say? How should I pitch myself in an interview? What is my personal style? Like how should I dress when I, walk into a room so someone can best understand me and how I want to be portrayed? So went to Miss Clemson and then ultimately went to Miss South Carolina, and by gone, I won that as well. And so I was someone who I thought, because of my inexperience in the pageant world, that there was no way I was going to win. But looking back, I had so much experience in the things that truly created what a Miss South Carolina should be, right? So I had experience and a great internship at that time working for a nonprofit. I traveled the state doing workforce development in science and
Nice.
technology education. So STEM workforce development. And so that was applicable to what I was doing as Miss South Carolina. Had so much training and interview just from, being out in the real world and having a job. So
Right.
that was applicable. And so when you go in and you don't have those standard world peace answers, you genuinely have, different
Right.
content that you're saying. It can set you apart. And that's kind of what happened with me. So that's why I say a long answer to say why I'm not necessarily a pageant girl, because I haven't done it.
Yeah, you didn't grow up in
I
it.
didn't grow up doing it, but I won 5 years ago, and I'm still involved today because it truly changed my life.
Nice.
And did you know that we launched Jada Samuels to win?
Yeah, we were.
Well, I knew she
we
was
were
on
very
here.
instrumental. In
She probably told you.
Yeah, she brings it up a lot.
Well, I was actually just with her yesterday, so
Really?
she's incredible.
Did she talk about us much or about
Probably
the
like
podcast?
10%.
that
I'm sure
launched
she
her
was going
career?
to the next, our next conversation that we were going to have. But I was just with her yesterday. She is another incredible woman that just, finished her year as Miss South Carolina and is going to do big things in the world. So it's cool to follow them and see what's next.
That's awesome. Now you were during COVID, so you're the only 2-time Miss South Carolina,
That's
correct?
Yes.
What
that
Oh,
was
is
I didn't know
correct.
that.
Yeah. What was it like during COVID to be Miss South Carolina?
So not only was it COVID, it was also an election year. It was a crazy time in our country, and that puts a lot of pressure on public figures to feel like they need to, address things a certain way, and am I saying things, the correct way? And it put a lot of pressure, on me. I talk about those trolls. That's when I really got to know,
Sure.
the trolls, because if you were silent, then you were doing something wrong. But if you also spoke out,
say
then
the
you were
wrong
also
thing,
doing
yeah.
something wrong. So it's also a time in my life when I really learned, you have to be you no matter what. But yes, during COVID, it was all virtual, right? So I was my platform was all about STEM education. So science, technology, engineering, and math. And I had this robot that I took around with me. His name was Abby Robotics. They're based right here in Columbia. So shout out to them. But I took the robot around with me and had a crown on my head. And even with all of that excitement, I still could only engage students for about 5 minutes.
Right.
I mean, it was difficult. So I have a huge respect for all
Yeah.
those teachers who have, who had that e-learning process the entire year. Yeah, it was crazy. I will tell you though, I could have gone year 3. It was a lot of
Yeah.
fun. So
Nice. Are there certain platforms in Miss South Carolina that they have a stance on, that the organization has a stance on, that you can't be yourself about? Does that make sense?
So as Miss South Carolina, you are the face of the organization. You are the brand ambassador for the organization. And that applies, just as you would be with any other company. That applies to that. Now, when you're preparing for interview, right, you are genuinely talking about
Yeah.
how you feel on a certain stance. You are genuinely talking about your thoughts and your feelings, which I always suggest, have an opinion, right? Like that's a very respectable thing as a young woman to have an opinion, but never offend. And so when we are preparing, because we're preparing for Miss America right now with the current Miss South Carolina, Davis Wash, that is something that, I'm constantly instilling in her is how do you have an opinion, but how do you have, respect for the opposite
Sure.
side and making sure that delivery is on point. So in the private interview, you absolutely, but externally you are a part of a brand and you are part of a company and you handle those things as such.
Nice.
That's good. Can you give us an example of how that would look? Because there's a lot of, and I think polarizing things where if you have an opinion, you basically end up on one side or the other. Or if you stay in the middle, you kind of get run over as being wishy-washy.
Yeah.
So you get called up and there's some controversial topic that you have to talk about. And you're like, okay, I want to have an opinion, but I also know if I have an opinion, it's going to offend 50% of the people.
And I think the best way to do that is to understand where other people's opinions are coming from. So for example, I always say controversial issues are controversial for a reason, right? Like they're not black and white. If it was black and white, then we would have this figured out and it would be out of the controversial topics, right? So it's controversial for an issue. And so I always challenge, and I challenge myself to understand why is this controversial, and if I don't understand why it's controversial, I dive deeper into the other side. And so I think it's important to address that and understand that in your delivery when you are going about that. So I'm trying to think of an example.
Like, did we land on the moon? Could be a good example. Or is the Earth flat?
Let's use that as an example. You don't want to offend the people who think the Earth is flat.
Yeah,
flat
flurfers.
Flurfers, okay. So I would probably, in my deliveries, again, I'm the science person, so I'm going to go in and talk about, well, if we go at this longitude and latitude, there is a curvature, and
Good.
go from there. I bring in the straight
Straight
facts.
science.
And while I understand Dr. Stetson might be a flatter, was that what you called it?
Flurfer.
A flurfer. Well, I understand Dr. Stetson might be a flurfer, and I understand that you really believe this because I don't know.
I'm not.
Okay,
But I could be. Like, I'm open to it. That's where I'm at with it.
Well, here's the moon thing.
The moon
let me
thing,
talk
I
about
don't
the
know.
moon.
The
I don't know
moon
about
thing,
the
I'm
moon-
for sure.
moon controversy.
I have a stance on the moon thing for sure. But the Earth, the moon's a gateway drug to the flat Earth. So that's
once
why.
you start on one theory,
once
then
you're
you
like,
get
we
to the
didn't go
other
to
theory.
Yeah.
Okay.
Once you're like, we didn't go to the moon. So then wait, maybe the Earth isn't round. And then you hear things like it's pear shaped, and then you hear like just all kinds of things about the constellations. And then your Instagram is just full of knowledge.
But the
about
moon,
flat Earth.
so the moon thing, I was very like, all right, take
Yeah,
the
I don't
science
know about
stuff.
the moon thing.
But then I don't trust any quote unquote science because I feel like any paper can be bought and paid for by
Correct.
anybody. And it started with the food system that basically bought all the scientific papers that said this is, that you
Use
need
high
more
fructose corn
sugar
syrup.
and more whatever. And then it spirals into the drug companies, but it also spirals into the tobacco companies, and asbestos was a thing and lead paint was a thing. And at that time, all the science said asbestos is fine and this food is fine. So then, I'm like, all right, I still don't believe anything about the moon, but I keep getting hammered from them saying like, you're telling me that someone from space in 1969 picked up a phone and called the White House. And I'm like, I do have a hard time connecting my phone to my truck in 2024
It's a struggle.
sometimes.
I'm going to have to dive down this rabbit hole a little bit
It's
deeper.
We
it's-
open a lot of people up to the moon concept.
Well, I haven't heard about this. Yeah, this.
It's great. And like the Titanic thing that just happened. Did you hear about the Titanic thing where the billionaires went down to look at the Titanic and they died?
No.
It was a whole. Am I
Yeah,
saying
oh,
that
yeah,
right?
yeah,
It was
yeah.
a whole. It was a whole thing.
It was like a submarine that
But it was
tried to
like-
go visit the Titanic.
And it was like 2022, and I'm sitting here thinking, you're telling me in 1969 we were sending astronauts to the moon that were landing and calling the White House, but however many years later we can't
can't
go
go
to the
visit.
Titanic in the bottom of the ocean without dying?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
See, these are the questions we got to ask these girls on stage. I mean, this is what they need. This is where they get.
Well, that would, I mean,
That's where we're going.
You got to shatter their worldview.
part of your delivery has to be thinking on your feet. So I mean,
Yes.
that would really test.
That would get them.
That would really test their.
You know what I was thinking?
conversation.
So I went to the pageant this year. Is that pageant?
Competition.
Competition.
Yes.
And I think some of the questions are much harder than others. And is it random? Because some girls that got questions, I'm like, whoa, that's a massive challenge.
Yes, Sarah got screwed. You thought this year with her
Sarah
question,
was
right?
Sarah's question
Hers
was tough.
was really hard.
It was tough. But then some are like, basically talk about your platform was kind of how I was like, okay, I could, that's a perfect question to answer.
So each question
layup.
is the next question that would have come from their private interview. So.
Oh, gotcha.
Yes.
Wait, what does that mean?
So after your interview,
Yeah.
the judges are always say, you know, what would be the next question that I would ask them. So it's
okay.
applicable to their conversation.
Like it. Okay.
So
That
Good
is
to
good.
know.
Actually,
Good to
I
know.
really like
But
that.
makes me feel
do you want me
better.
to tell
Yeah.
you the hardest question, in my opinion, to answer?
I think I know it.
Oh,
But wait,
I
let me
wanna
guess. Let me
guess,
guess.
too.
It's not really a question, more of an open-ended statement.
Yeah, it's if what would be a best slogan to represent Miss South Carolina?
You were on the right track of what I was thinking.
I couldn't say it.
Okay,
I was trying to-
so it's
Yeah.
tell me about yourself.
Oh, that's the question.
That is the question.
That is tough because you have a short amount of time and your brain goes 1,000
But how
directions.
do you answer that?
and you're so many
Right.
things.
And you're so
Right.
many
You can't
things.
just take Morgan down into a little box.
And so that when I am working with companies and social media with the More concept, that is something that applies to branding as well.
Yes.
If you can tell me about yourself in a minute and a half, that is what I try to pull out of my clients when I'm working with them.
Great segue there.
branding.
Great segue to the more concept.
I will say that's another thing you got to learn how to segue. So.
That was nice.
But no, I really do mean that. Is the tell me about yourself is
It's so
the
good.
hardest question for any interview. So if you're an interviewer out there or you're preparing for an interview, practice how you would answer that question because it makes you think what is most important. How am I pitching myself
Right.
in 30 seconds or less? And what am I going to say?
Right.
that I need your help. Can you give me a little coaching on this?
Well,
Is
well
this
I
what
would
you
start
do?
with I'll
this
give
is your
you I'll
thing?
give you some questions to ask from a personal standpoint, right?
Well, let me give you some context first. So I was sitting at it was this church function. It was kind of like a more private meeting or whatever. And we sat beside someone that we didn't know. And somebody asked me, "What do you do?" And my wife was sitting
I
there.
hate that question.
And I said, "I'm a podcaster." And it's the first time I've ever given that answer. And she didn't know. She's probably in her 60s. Didn't know what to say to that. She was like, "Oh, okay." And my wife's sitting there like,
You should have heard
Nodding
when,
her head.
when I told my grandma that I'm working in social media. It still doesn't.
yes, But I don't know if I would say that I am a podcast. I just say it for the.
Do you do podcasts?
I do podcasts.
Okay, well,
And
then you're a podcaster.
Right. And I always have my identity. So my identity was like, I'm a hockey player. And then I had to really break from that to become a chiropractor. And now I might be breaking into a podcaster in some way, mentally.
And I think you just did it right then and there.
Before our eyes.
Before our, exactly before
You
our
came out
eyes.
of
Is that a
the cocoon.
master class?
Yeah,
Did
you
I just
came out of
teach
the-
you something?
You
Yeah,
turned
well,
into a
you-
butterfly.
You created.
Let me go get in the right
created your brand.
red light bed and think about this.
And you created your brand right then and there because here is what I tell people when they're thinking about the answer to this question. And I'll kind of dive a little bit into my personal journey with this question.
Yep.
I studied genetics when I was in college, right? I wanted to go to medical school and be a fertility doctor.
Wow.
Really?
It was either that option or I wanted to be an ESPN broadcaster. I wanted to be Aaron Andrews, which will play a little bit into the story.
Sperm and eggs all day.
So chose
Yep.
the sperm and the eggs
Yeah,
route.
okay.
Ended up studied genetics. Was planning to go to medical school. Didn't really love the thought of going to school for that long. So then I interned at Nephron Pharmaceuticals. Loved the business side. Added the business minor. Graduated from college. Went to work in economic development, and then became Miss South Carolina. Got to learn about social media throughout Miss South Carolina.
Yeah.
And so now I work with clients doing social media, doing marketing, and, broadcasting, which kind of goes back to my desire to be Erin Andrews on ESPN. But I'm also working a lot with health and wellness clients. And specifically, I have a client who is all about women's health and fertility. And so it's really cool how kind of my passions, while they've seemed very divergent, all came together. And one of the things that we see in social media, and we hear this all the time, is that it is just so concentrated with content. And how do you stand out?
Yeah.
And I'm bringing this to wrap it up in a bow.
Empty at the top.
Well, but there's no one who is like you. There's probably no one who played hockey. There's probably who played hockey and then became a chiropractor and then is a podcaster and creates the story that makes you unique so you can stand out. So why try to be like someone else if you're just going to, fall into the millions of content creators? But if you truly stick to that answer of tell me about yourself and you really figure that out, that allows you to be that unique podcaster, be that unique chiropractor, be that unique former hockey player, which I didn't know about you, super cool, and create a brand for yourself and, both professionally and personally.
That's good. So did you know that I got third place as the social media influencer with Columbia?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
What are you influencing right now?
So
His
I'm a
239 followers.
So you know the Best of Columbia thing, right? The whole
I do,
contest.
yes.
Yeah. So I got nominated for that. And I was like, I got to.
Congratulations.
Yeah, this is amazing. But here's what I've been saying is I'm an in-person social media influencer where I can like.
Are you an in-person influencer? In-person influencer?
I think so. Yes. Maybe I was using in-person influence to get people to vote for me online. Because everybody would say like, oh yeah, sure. I don't know. Who else am I going to vote for? Ken Walker? Like,
congratulations.
which he actually did win, and he deserves it. But it was interesting to see what that looks like. But the branding side of it's hard. I could see people coming up to you saying, I don't know what to do for my brand.
It's hard, but at the end of the day, people have complicated it way too much. At the end of the day, and people are, this is a little bit of a hot take, but people are making marketing so complicated.
Right.
That they're losing the plot of why they started in the first place and what they are good at in the first place.
Preach.
And I will not go down.
Let's
I
go.
will not go down a rabbit hole on this.
Yes.
But you need to remember your core values, your core brand. And if your core brand is luxury, then you probably shouldn't be
in Waffle House.
in Waffle House doing a TikTok dance coming out of Walmart just for views. And that is what I mean by, marketing as people have overcomplicated it because they are forgetting what's holding true to themselves. Now, don't get me wrong. I am an entrepreneur and I have worked for entrepreneurs who have driven to the bone that you cannot have a company without sales. So don't get me wrong. I understand that. Yeah. But at the end of the day, social media is a platform that represents your business. And if you are constantly chasing views and likes and comments, you are going to lose who you are at the core. And that's, I'll preach it again. People are doing that in their personal life too, right? They're constantly chasing the next best thing. They're constantly trying to find quick fixes. Like we're going to bring it back to the beginning of the episode, that they are forgetting their core values. And so that has been very important to me. Of course we want to get sales, and of course you want to, expand your reach and have new customers coming in. But if you are forgetting the exact reason why you launched this in the first place, then first of all, you're not going to be sustainable. And then why are you continuing? So that's definitely a core message for me when working with social media clients and marketing clients in general.
Yeah. So when you take on a client, I guess, walk us through that. Say somebody wants to work with you. Tell us about
who would you even be looking
tell us about
for?
your day one visit with them.
So I started this business. Well, I started on the side, you doing it as a hobby, right? Like I'm grateful that my hobby was making me money, but I was someone who loved social media. I love that dopamine kick when you start telling your story and people hear it. I think it's so special. So I started working with small businesses, and that has been something that I've wanted to stick with, right? Like I love working with small businesses who have such an awesome story to share, and they want to leverage technology to do that. So I learned a lot about technology being the COVID queen, because I had to leverage that through all, my year as Miss South Carolina. But so leveraging storytelling with technology. So one of the first things I do when I bring on a client is really ask them what are their core values? What message do you want to put out into the world? And how do you want people to portray that? One of the cool things about social media is you get to build a digital community, right? You can connect with people all across the country, all across the world, but connecting with that community is very special. So then we start going into your target audience. Who does your ideal customer look like? And then we start curating strategy to, impact that target audience. I will say I love working with local brands. I think there's a really cool synergy with working with local brands. They have more of a face with the brand, and even with the larger brands that I work with that are not local brands, I still really try to bring in that personal aspect to that, because that's what people fall in love with, right? Like people love y'all probably more than they love Columbia Family Chiropractic. Like obviously they learn to love it, but y'all's personal connections are what bring people in immediately and what keep people in immediately. So that's where we start.
Nice.
That's good.
Do you?
You just put glasses on?
Yeah, I felt more sophisticated. She just speaks so well that I thought I need to. She
throw
said,
glasses.
"You're in the luxury brand." I was like, "Oh, yeah,
That makes sense.
I gotta
You
get
just
my brand
reminded
right."
him who he was.
Yeah, I'm turning into a butterfly as well.
Yeah, tell us about yourself.
See that it's just I
You
struggle
might
with
be
that
a different person putting on those glasses.
because here's what I struggled with is I'm not really a chiropractor anymore. So if somebody asks me that, I'm like, I'm educated in chiropractic, but I'm now like out of the chiropractic space.
I think that's a really hard question for entrepreneurs to answer.
Right. And because we dabble in so many things that I've even hired a coach to like work on that, crafting that like statement.
Well, when I
essentially.
met you and your wife at where were we? Drip Coffee, maybe?
It's called what? Peacewise now.
Peacewise
Yes.
now. Great coffee there. Matcha, 10 out of 10 with a little almond milk on top. It's my favorite.
Nice.
It was really cool to kind of hear y'all's story and hear all that y'all were doing and how that, brought y'all together,
Right.
how it brought you to Columbia and how
Right.
you are where you are now. So I think it's really powerful.
And it's fine tuning because there are so many avenues. It's fine tuning how to compartmentalize. Like I'm going to do this, and then I'm also going to be great at this, and I'm going to be great at this, and like that is where I'm currently at and figuring all that out.
Well, when you figure it out, will you please let me know?
I'll let you know. I'll make a course on it.
All right, please do.
So with your you style photo shoots then? Like
I do.
So this is a question. So for modeling, say you want Randy to model for you.
Yes.
And it's a swim edition. Like I don't know what you're
European one.
Yeah, like a
Speedo one.
European. Yes.
You need a spray tan?
Yeah. Good point.
How do you talk to him on like what you want him to, how you want him to pose?
He's the model?
He's the model.
Okay.
He's the model. Say you're selling like a beverage, like a nice kombucha maybe. By the pool, and a towel, maybe a towel.
Selling the towel or selling
selling the towel.
You aren't selling the kombucha, you're selling the lifestyle around it.
Yes. Here
And
we go.
so that's how we would start.
Now, would you buy his outfits or like tell him what to wear?
So it depends. I've worked with clients who we bring in make sure the sarong that you wore was the exact shade of their
Right.
brand colors, and the tube that you would be laying in would be the, other color of the brand color. So we've gone down to a science, but a lot of these small businesses,
yeah.
I mean, that can be big budgets, and that can
Right.
get heavy. So I would just advise you. Okay, do you have what do you have in your closet?
Like, say he shows up too skimpy.
No,
like
here-
it's a Speedo, and you're like, I was thinking board shorts. And now you're at the shoot.
well, I mean, I'm going to tell you how it is.
And what if
too,
it's
right?
red
We've
and it
gotta
should have
do
been
it.
blue?
Yeah.
Well, there is some
That would be wrong.
Photoshop we can do
Here,
as well. but-
here's what I would be firing you questions about. I'd be saying,
As the model?
should I? Yeah.
Okay.
I'd be like, how much of my chest hair do I shave?
Yeah.
What like length do you want? Do you want
wanna
to
carve
shave?
anything
Do you
into
want
it?
totally? You want me to go wax it?
I mean, I would
Am I
probably-
shaving my arms, armpit hair, legs?
It's got a lot of
We're
questions.
getting
Yeah.
It's a
real
lot.
detailed here, and I have not been asked if I should shave my armpit
Yeah.
hair, or my chest hair
Beard?
before.
Like
I have
would a
been asked
kombucha
that.
like would a kombucha person have scruff?
I would say a little scruff. I mean, I think
do I
yeah.
do I
It works.
do I strike you as a kombucha person?
No. Probably not what we're looking for with a kombucha space. Maybe a towel.
Well, that's what I don't know.
I think
That's-
a towel.
I'm
You're
trying to
good-
tease out. I'm trying to tease out like
Well,
how do you
here's
know what a
something,
kombucha
though.
person looks like?
what we see on social media is face. Like we
Yeah.
love seeing eyes,
Yeah.
Oh,
and
good.
that comes into the data too, right? I've seen where if you have face, if you have eyes, if you have emotion, that even ups up the engagement. So I would probably, make you feel a little bit better by saying your chest hair isn't going to be the star of the show. That is going to be more of your
couldn't
face
even hold it in.
and more.
Yeah.
I mean,
Don't worry about
Yeah.
your chest.
Yeah.
What-
the,
Just
the
let it grow.
kombucha is going to
Yeah,
be
like,
the
no,
focus.
I would take my shirt off and you'd be like, oh, I should have
Like, I guess at
we
what
should have
point...
shaved that.
Yeah, do you ever feel like creepy where you're like, I don't know how to tell this person this? Or like rude, maybe. Maybe rude's the, like, as the, like, I always think of that from like a photographer or anything like in the marketing space. You have a vision for something.
Correct.
And like, they may just like be completely, the business owner may be completely oblivious.
Well, and I think, especially when it comes to photo shoots, they appreciate direction. And they appreciate telling exactly what to do and exactly what to wear and exactly how to do it.
Yeah.
That I've never felt uncomfortable doing.
Okay.
It's often requested, I
Yeah.
would say. Like I said,
Yes.
I've never done,
Like, you
chest
want it
hair.
to be tasteful. Like, that's where like taste comes into play, and I just think it could get out of control. I don't know.
Well, like I said, I haven't done the
Yeah.
whole armpit hair, the chest
Yeah.
hair conversation before, but it
Yeah, because I
could
guess
get
in your space,
touchy.
like you were saying, so eyes sell, face sells,
and by sales I mean engages.
like just
right?
yeah, like people will look at it.
yeah, it's a scroll stopper.
Sex
Emotion
sells.
sells.
Sex sells,
Sex does sell.
skimpy little outfits sell. Because that's what I could see going through his mind. He's like, oh, I need to get in something skimpy because it sells.
No, that wouldn't go through my mind. That's not what I would
Okay,
think.
good.
I'd think
Chest hair.
No, I would be chest
We
hair. I would
focus
be
more-
worried about. Like I would be thinking about the
Should he do
vibe of a
push-ups?
person
Now,
who would
push-ups we could
want
do.
Yeah.
kombucha.
Push-ups never hurt.
But I think of kombucha as like my wife would be into kombucha.
I don't know. I could see you being a kombucha guy.
Yeah.
I'll have I mean I like kombucha.
Yeah. My husband loves kombucha.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Now Randy loves it. If your husband loves it.
Yeah, but you have to be like if I had 100 guys in front of me randomly picked out, there would be 4 that even know what kombucha
You
is
think?
probably.
In the health space, there's a lot more.
In
I
the
mean,
health
it
space
is-
for sure.
it is
So
taking
everybody at
average.
Studio Fire knows what kombucha is.
I would
If
say
I go to the construction or if I go to the brick place right across the street and ask everyone who works there, how many of you have had kombucha?
They might.
I don't know how many are saying yes. I think
You're right, you're
a
right.
small percentage.
I will say I've seen the shelf space at Publix growing with kombucha.
That's true.
So it's definitely gaining market share for sure. But then, I'm also thinking, okay, are those people at the construction site on social media as much as the people?
They are, but they're in a different like my.
They have a different algorithm.
My
for sure.
brother-in-law Jared, he would be like, "I'll have kombucha if it was a Budweiser."
Wait, are we on to something?
yeah, like if, yeah,
we
you'd
on
be
to
like, "Oh yeah,
kombucha Budweiser?
Yeah, they make
that's-
kombucha.
I'm sure they
alcohol.
have it. It's come. Yeah, it's coming.
Yeah.
But
Actually,
is it
yeah,
branded,
It's not-
Bud Light?
yeah, they need a manly one.
A
It's-
man's
Yes,
drink.
it's not now. It's like my wife
Yes.
is ordering it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I had one. I did. So this past weekend, she ordered like these special ones, and I had some of it. I was like, she's like, how is it? Like, so I'm like, it's amazing. It's great. And then I was planning on just like dumping the rest out before she got to it. But then she went and picked it up and it was like still full. And she's like, oh, great. I just wasted my $5 kombucha drink that I had to specially order.
I will say my guilty pleasure is I cannot leave Publix without a drink to consume in the car.
Really?
Yep.
What do you go you go with a
Coconut water?
It could be a kombucha. Poppy has been recently, up there for me.
You
but
drink
I cannot.
Zevia? It's like a cola sweetened with stevia.
So I have not had a Coke since I was 6 years old, and I can't. Well, I say I
Really?
haven't had a Coke. I've tasted it, but I can't get on it anymore.
Coke and rum?
Coke and I
Well, I
did
think
have
rum.
that.
Dabbled in that?
I dabbled in it. Let me correct
All
myself.
right, it's back.
I haven't popped open
Yeah,
a Coke
yeah,
since I was college,
Good.
or since I was younger, and now I haven't been able to acquire the taste anymore.
Right.
And I wish I could have, because some people abide by their Diet Coke.
Right. People love
Chocolate
People love
milk.
it. Chocolate milk is not my thing either.
Not a
it. Milk's gross.
Not my thing either. But
I know. There are some
Poppy
people that
is
still just drink
on my
glasses of
trend.
milk.
Poppies, do you get you feel like a juice person? Smoothie. But
Yeah.
Publix
Oh,
doesn't have that.
smoothie would be good.
But Publix isn't making you a smoothie.
no, Publix isn't making me a smoothie. I love those iced sparkling
Whole
waters.
Whole Foods will make you a smoothie.
Yeah.
Well,
I
Whole
get a
Foods has some good drink. They have a
good selection.
good selection of those ready to consume drinks. Whew.
Yeah.
That is when I might get two.
Whoa.
Oh.
Yeah, that's when I'm really feeling good. That's one of my guilty pleasures.
Yeah. How many drinks do you carry around on an average day?
So
Like, are you like a 2 to 3? Like, leave
Plus
the
a
house with a
Stanley
water, like a Stanley of water.
So you probably think that I'm like the basic girl who's got the Stanley. I lasted maybe 2 weeks with my Stanley and then lost it. So
Really?
I don't trust myself with one anymore.
Okay.
But for me, it's in the morning. Like I love drinking
Cup
in
of
the
Joe.
morning. So first things first is I always drink electrolytes.
Like
That
a
is my
salt
go-to.
water.
Liquid IV is what I'm currently on from Costco.
Yep. Yep.
So I get the bulk bag.
You ever call it
Liquid IV.
Koskies? You ever say
No,
Koskies?
but I went down the rabbit hole of Costco TikToks. Y'all, they are hilarious. People have like come up with their own tunes on Costco,
Really?
and they'll say what's the fines of Costco. I just got a membership because I was using
Yeah, it's
my
great.
dad's for a little while, but
All right,
I
Liquid
always
IV.
do Liquid IV because I sweat a lot. Need to replenish
Yeah.
my electrolytes. And I'm telling you, I love, like, I go to sleep thinking about the drink that I'm going to drink the next morning. Yeah. So my first one is always Liquid IV. I try to get on the trend of the lemon water,
Yeah.
in the morning. If I'm feeling really good and like really abiding by, I'm going to make today a great day, I'm going to do the lemon
Costco
water.
has these organic lemon juice bottles.
Ooh.
Dynamite.
Okay.
And you could toss it in with your Liquid IV
Yep.
or just lemon when
Yeah.
like you just dump it in with a little water.
Well,
Game
I told
changer.
y'all all about efficiency. So
Yes.
my Liquid IV, and then I put a molecular hydrogen tablet in there.
Molecular hydrogen.
It's from Symbiotica. They're one of my favorite brands.
Nice.
So molecular hydrogen with my Liquid IV and a big glass of water. So I heard once you're like a flower, you need to water yourself in the morning. It's kind of cheesy,
I love
but
that.
That's good. Have you used that on stage?
Not yet.
no, I haven't. But so that's my first drink. My second one that's when I do my matcha. So this is a trend I've recently been on. It's from a brand called Chroma Wellness. It is matcha with collagen and turmeric. And I put the Califia almond and coconut milk on top with obviously the matcha, and it is to die for. Lex, my hairstylist, noticed that my hair was a little bit stronger, and I
Come on.
swear
No
by
way
the
Lex.
matcha.
Lex knew that.
Lex, yep.
Come on,
yep.
Lex.
If Lex says it's true about your hair, then
Gotta believe it.
You gotta believe it. So
I do feel like Lex would tell the truth.
he will. Oh,
Like if it looked
100%,
worse, he would say like,
100%.
I don't think he
But
can lie.
It's really no.
like
he
he's
is-
not a.
It's
he
just,
doesn't-
he's just too open.
So Liquid IV, then we go into the matcha, and then we go into the AG1.
Yeah.
So Athletic Greens, I will say,
So you have a lot of beverages right out of the gates.
my dishwasher is constantly full of dirty
Yeah.
cups.
And I can tell that you listen to a lot of podcasts because those are the heaviest marketed podcast brands.
Well, and I will say yes, we love listening to Andrew Huberman, and he's
Yeah.
their advisor of AG1. And I was on the vitamin. I mean, of course I want to take my vitamin, but I found I drink my vitamin better than I take
Yeah.
a pill.
And I think it's absorbed better too, probably.
For sure. So, from our energy levels, my husband and I take AG1. We've seen a big difference in that. And then the final thing would be the coffee. That's where the coffee comes in.
to go. What do you put in your coffee?
The almond milk.
Almond milk. Okay. That's it.
Yep, just coffee with almond milk in the glass cup and a glass straw. Now this is like when I'm
cold.
having the perfect morning.
So you go cold coffee.
100%.
Do you ever go anything hot? Is the matcha hot?
No, yes, the matcha's
Okay.
hot. The matcha's hot.
Have you ever made your own almond milk?
No, but
great.
I was at Studio Fire this morning and they said they actually made their almond
Yeah.
milk
Yes.
from scratch.
It's good.
It-
They sell
it's the way to
nutbags.
go. Yeah.
You
get
just
a
have to
nut-
buy
yeah,
a
You get a
nutbag.
nut bag and then you milk
Yeah.
your almonds.
Yeah. See, so I'm newly married, and my husband loves to eat. And, I've tried to embrace, coming into being a wife. You wanna cook for your husband and you want to do a great job. And and I have finally kind of come to terms that that's just never going to happen.
Nice. I like that.
Wait, does he know that?
Yeah. What is his stance?
I can't even eat if it's not put on a plate.
He is the cook of our relationship.
cook
like
too.
he is
Really? I'm
a
a-
great cook.
Are you a cleaner then? You got to be the cleaner if you're not the cook.
I am a cleaner.
Okay.
And I'm the sous chef.
Yes.
I'm the sous chef.
Okay.
But I was answering that question because the thing for me is I don't have a great amount of patience when it comes to cooking.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm working through. But who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
This is my
What's your husband's regimen? Like, what's he eating? What's his diet?
A lot of chicken.
A lot of
a
protein.
lot of. So recently it's been bison and rice.
Really?
Yep. So that's what we've
ground
ground
bison?
bison. You can get it from Publix in a
Yep.
pack, and we'll do bison and rice. And
What kind
try
of
to throw
seasoning
in
is he getting in there?
Lowry's.
Lowry's seasoning.
So he's
Just
taught me
keeps
all
it
the
simple.
things. Exactly.
Eggs for breakfast, probably.
Eggs for breakfast. Okay, so I'm kind of backtracking on what I said, I guess, about me never cooking because I do a casserole. We've meal prepped it at the beginning of the week. Go to Costco.
Like an egg casserole?
An egg casserole.
Okay.
If you line the pan with some sweet potato, do an egg casserole with, if you're really feeling fancy, you can do the ground bison. Well, we've done ground turkey, spinach, mushrooms.
Nice.
And then we chop it up and we're good to go for the whole week.
That's great.
Costco needs to give you a brand deal.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I honestly didn't have
It's
a Costco
great.
membership until 2 months ago.
Yeah.
I will say my one pain point with Costco is that you can't use an Amex. And I am
Right.
someone who loves Amex
Get their
credit
Costco
card
card,
points.
though. Their Costco card's dynamite.
Really?
Yeah.
We'll see, how
See how it goes. See how the relationship is.
See how the relationship is and see if I want to renew and then if
You're
so
dating
we'll-
right now,
we'll-
yeah.
We'll think about it.
Yeah.
So
Well, with your business too, you can probably have a business account and put a lot
That's
of the
a-
things you
yeah.
have to do for your business.
for
through it.
sure.
Yep.
Yep.
Where's your husband work out?
Where does he work out?
Yeah.
So he's at Brick House. So that is
Moving
a place.
heavy weights.
Yeah, moving heavy weights.
That's the influencer gym.
Yep.
There's
Wait,
a
that-
lot of
There's
mirrors, selfie room.
They have a selfie room,
Yeah.
which I just realized for the first time when I go with him, which is probably
He spends
every
90
other.
minutes there.
So I like to say
Didn't work out.
So
Didn't work out, but I took a great photo.
Brick House is just moved right by the stadium, which is super cool. So it has that vibe, very different from where I work out, which is Studio Fire. We've got the pinks, the colors,
Yeah.
the neutrals. His is testosterone filled. Hard,
Yes.
heavy weightlifting,
Yeah.
screamo music, which is what he loves. But I go with him every now and then. But we have talked a lot about weightlifting, and he is trying to get me to weightlift more. He'll always send me these studies just about women
Yes.
in weightlifting and how impactful that can be for bone density and aging and
Yeah.
just overall, body composition. And so I've tried to get on that trend. And recently I did go with him and I did see the selfie room for the first time.
Did you take one?
I did not take
No.
one. No, I didn't. But the shadows, they definitely know what they're doing because
Yeah.
their muscles seem to be popping a little bit more.
Yes. Shadows are a big deal especially when you're not working with much. I'm not working with much these days, but I'm going to try to get more tone. But the lighting game, you can actually make it look like you're ripped.
Well, in working in social media, lighting is huge. So a
Crucial.
lot of people always ask me, how can I get better iPhone photography?
Yeah.
And there are some settings that you can actually put into your phone to make the quality higher. But the other thing I always tell people is lighting. Lighting is huge. They can take, a bad photo to being one of the best you've ever done. So I've learned a little bit more about the lighting world, working in social media, also renovating my house. I've learned, the warm versus the light versus the cool tones. And it really does make a difference when it comes to visuals.
Yeah. Tom took a photo of me 2 days ago. That was dynamite.
Yeah, I knew what I was doing.
What kind of lighting did you use?
It was great overhead, like
string lights, kind
string
of.
lights,
Ooh.
but then there was some ground lighting too.
Nice.
And I just said, stand right here.
And it was so
but
good.
But it wasn't your kombucha.
No,
modeling
it wasn't
time.
it wasn't a kombucha shoot.
No.
More of a wedding venue shoot. All right, so you went to Miss USA.
Miss America.
Miss America.
Yes,
Miss America.
yes.
Completely different. You don't want to even mention Miss USA in this. Oh, boy. Are you friends with a lot of the girls that you competed with back then? And did you get to do it twice with the same girls?
So we didn't get to do it twice.
Just once.
It was once. It was
Okay.
in December of 2019. And then obviously March of 2020 is when COVID hit. So we had a little bit of a weird year simply because we could never get together after Miss America. But we still definitely stay in touch. So
Yeah.
it's cool to see how their lives progress. And like I said, one of the coolest things that even going into my professional career is having women in every state who are doing big things with their life.
Yeah.
And so it's been really cool to leverage connections. I mean, it's kind of like going into a college and networking and having, dispersing and having all of these really well and high achieving women in different states. So it's definitely come in handy, and we're all in different phases of life, which is crazy to see. We're in our 20s when some of us are having our fourth kid and some of us are, still
Living the dream.
single and living the dream. So it's cool to see how everyone's kind of progressed since then.
Yeah.
But we definitely all still keep in touch.
Nice. Were you in the band growing up as a child?
The band, I was not.
No.
I was actually in musical theater.
Nice.
So I was an athlete. So I played volleyball. I was a volleyball player.
Really?
I was a libero.
Nice.
That
That's
I
a
will
good
tell
position.
you. That I will tell you is where I learned work ethic for sure. That was where I was not a good athlete. I mean, I was not good at volleyball. I had to work really, really hard to be good at volleyball. And that's where I found my kind of drive and work ethic, whereas school to me came a little bit easier for sure. But then was in musical theater, and that's where I really found my love for performing, for being on stage, and just entertaining, I would say.
So you were in like plays and that kind of stuff?
I was in plays.
What were some of
Yep.
your plays?
So I was in show choir too.
So you were a singer too.
So singing and dancing.
was that your talent at the
Yes.
singing?
Yes.
That always wins.
Yes. So I was in show choir and absolutely loved that. I actually, my junior and senior year was in charge. I was over our entire show choir and would go up to Ohio and would train from Michael Jackson's backup dancer.
Sweet.
So,
Really?
yep, one of my choreographers was Michael Jackson's backup dancer. Or having someone to go to and explain the situation, and they've been there and discussed how they've gotten through it. I also think having a mentor is really great when it comes to, is what I'm experiencing like abnormal, or or is this normal? Is there hope for me to get over this hump that I'm going through? And then how do I get over this hump? So I definitely think having a mentor is huge when it comes to business.
That's good. Yeah.
And then I also think a professional development coach, like you were just talking about, which I would love to get their number,
Yeah.
because I'm at that stage too. We're kind of crafting, I'm 27 years old, and I really feel like the world is my oyster. So how do
sure.
it's almost like a river of opportunity, but if you try for everything, then you're
Right.
gonna get nothing.
Yeah.
And so having that professional development coach, I think it's huge because they help teach you that executive presence. And that's actually going back to your question about looking for a man. Executive presence is something that I always looked for when searching for a man.
Very sexy.
I don't know what that
and
means,
I
but
think it
you must
sounds
have
hot.
it.
I think it means having like an it factor, but a little bit maybe more academic sense and professional sense. You know, I'm looking for a man in finance.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that man in finance has an executive presence.
Yeah. How tall is your husband?
6'5".
No.
Is it bad
Does
that
he
I
have
don't-
blue
six-
eyes?
No, he doesn't. And he's
Does he
in
have a
law, so
trust
I'm looking
fund?
for a man, and he doesn't have a trust fund either. At least not one that I know
No,
about.
yeah.
But maybe.
When did you feel comfortable like being so open? What I love is like you were talking about your acne, you were talking about eating issues growing up. You were like you're just open about who made you you. Was that something developed when you started getting in the
100%.
like in the Miss South Carolina stuff?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say through Miss South Carolina, but then also afterwards.
Yeah.
I would have never shared that.
Because I
5
think
years
that's
ago.
what creates the connectiveness to you. Like the attractiveness is essentially you're not just this beauty queen that's like that people I don't know if like judge or like I'll never be that. You create this like, hey, this is my journey. And like still working on stuff and I think that's great in marketing too.
Well, and I think that goes back to creating that unique, you know, every experience that you've had has ultimately brought you to where you are today.
Right.
And that's been really hard for me to understand up until recently, I would say. So yeah, I would absolutely attribute some of that to Miss South Carolina and just the people around me and really the confidence that I have built, which is easier said than done. And I think, you know, everyone's, especially young women, are still working on that.
Yeah.
But because of some of those trials and tribulations, I feel like it's almost given me a really cool experience and a really cool advantage to where I am now. So, for example, I had acne. I struggled with it. But now can tell you a lot about skincare, and I am good with my skin clients. I know what it's like to be there, so I can connect with those target audiences, right?
Yeah.
With my experience with, you know, and I say eating disorder, but I think it's overall health, understanding what health really means. Like, for example, I thought a wheat thin was healthy because it was wheat, right? And so that experience has ultimately allowed me to become better with women's health, and it has put me in those shoes so I can really flourish in my position now. And so and like I said, I think it's using your unique experiences and your story, and how does that truly craft your personal brand.
Right.
And so and that has given me the confidence to be able to talk about those kind of things.
Yeah.
So wheat thins was because the government said it, lobbied hard for it, and made everybody think that it was healthy.
And don't get me wrong, I love a good wheat thin, but
Nice
that was
little
my
snack.
that was my belief.
Yes, you don't need 8 to 10 servings a day. For anybody that still thinks the old bought and paid for food pyramid is what you should be doing.
Exactly.
What do you do to calm your nerves? Like, what was any coaching on that? Because you're very comfortable in front of people, being on stage, all that stuff. Is there any techniques?
Couple Xanax.
Couple Xannies?
So
We don't promote that.
No, we don't. We don't.
I don't know why you said
I
that.
used to think it was crazy.
Well, that's what I picture happening behind stage is everyone's like
popping a
freaking
Xanax.
out, taking Xanax.
No, and I used to think this was like crazy and okay, how could this actually work?
You're going to say take a deep breath.
Meditate. Meditate.
Taking a deep breath would totally be it.
No, was
Yes,
it?
I was really going to
Yeah.
say that. And why? I mean, like I said, I like to understand why. Like, why am
Yeah.
I? And I do that when I teach fitness. Right? Like, I educate the people in my fitness class. Okay, why are you doing this lunge? Like, what benefit is this providing me? Well, I'm going to tell you so you understand. So, why am I taking a deep breath? You're nervous, right? But by taking a deep breath, you're activating your parasympathetic nervous system. And so you are literally calming down your body so you can better think and you can better perform. Another thing is giving yourself affirmations. And I used to be that person who was like, oh my God, here's these people coming about talking about affirmations again and taking deep breaths. But seriously, once I got into the point where I needed to perform and perform optimally, I learned those techniques to conquer nerves. And I still use them. For
I'm
sure.
big on affirmations.
You
Yeah,
are.
I
What is
think
your
they're
affirmation
awesome.
of the day today?
I don't do them every day, but I would write down all the things that I wanted to believe about myself that I didn't, and then I would record them, and then I would listen to myself say it.
You know what we should do is you should make it like your ringtone or something.
Ooh.
Oh,
So when
anytime
people
someone
call?
calls,
Yeah.
that's a good. I mean, I just had like a routine where I would just, whenever I got in my vehicle, I would just listen to it over and over again. But you do start to believe it. The more you tell it to yourself, the more you start to believe it.
100%. And negative self-talk is also huge. So the other direction.
Yeah.
And easier said than done, but figuring out how to navigate the chatter in your head is challenging. And so if you can literally figure out how to compartmentalize that as chatter, as just that, and bring in some of those affirmations, it's huge for performance. And, you know, I watch those Olympians and wonder, you know, what they're using. And
Right.
I think when you're in high stakes, you have to learn those things. And I'm grateful that something like, you know, Miss America, I was taught those things, but I do continue to use that and hopefully continue as I, you know, go throughout my career.
How did you end up being doing that?
I'd wanted to teach fitness since I was in high school. I wanted to do body combat. Do y'all remember body pump, body combat? That was my thing.
It was on VHS. Like, wasn't that a long time ago?
Probably. And then wanted to do it all throughout college and just never had the opportunity to. And then was going to Studio Fire. And like I said, that was the first time that I actually enjoyed working out. That they totally changed my mindset on that and fell in love with it. And they were asking for instructors. And if y'all couldn't tell, I love being on a mic. So figured it was, you know, the perfect place for that.
Perfect match. Yeah.
Love it. Last question for me was, what's the wildest thing that you've done, maybe as a sorority member, maybe in the USA or in the Miss America world? What story does the audience need to know about Morgan?
The wildest thing I've done.
Yes.
I don't know
Anything come to mind?
if I've said it out loud, much less said it on a mic.
For the good people of Columbia.
The wildest thing I've done.
I don't know.
One time I was driving to an appearance and ran out of gas. Ran out of gas and blamed it on bad gas. I had a whole story for it.
Oh, like you told them
Yeah.
that. Oh,
Yeah.
goodness. Okay.
I know, recently.
Yes.
I mean, it's just kind of a wild story. I did an MRI scan and found out I'm missing a vertebrae.
Oh, that's right. You went to the, was it Atlanta?
For Nuvo.
New York?
Yes.
Wanna do
that
that
looked
still.
cool.
It was really cool. It was really cool. So
Missing a vertebrae.
missing a vertebrae, I mean, that's not
That's,
necessarily.
I've got 6 lumbars.
he's got
a
an
bonus
extra.
one.
He has yours.
Oh, I know the perfect thing. He slid into my DMs and then we stopped talking, but I asked my husband out on the date.
Yes, we didn't talk about that. So he slid into your DMs first, just said what? What's up?
So we met through a
babe?
mutual friend and I was still at Clemson. The friend called me and said, this guy wants to take you out on a date. I was in exam season, a lot going on. He texted
Focused.
me and just we did go out. We went for coffee, but then we didn't talk. So he says I ghosted him, but there was just a lot going on. And so a few months later, I asked him to go out to dinner.
Wow. Did you go text or did you go back to Instagram?
I went text for
Text,
sure.
nice.
Maybe I did Snapchat, but went text.
So if you ask him out, then you probably would need to pay for it.
You're probably right. Is
That's
that-
controversial
What
right
do you
now.
think?
I don't really know.
No, I think the guy always should pay. That's my stance on it. But
I think whoever
I'm
asks
with you.
should pay is what I think.
Okay.
I wouldn't let in real life. I could never see myself going on a date and not paying. But
yeah,
good question. I don't know.
I mean,
I'm
I get
hashing
where
it
you're
out.
coming from.
Yeah.
If I ask someone, I mean, my parents also instilled in me, if you ask someone to come to dinner, like if you're the person, then you should pay for them. Like my
Yes.
birthday dinners, then that person should pay.
nice.
Yep. I
Great.
agree.
And then
I
it was
learned
then it was just a love story from there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Then you had your first kiss. Then he said, "This is
He
the
did say, "I
woman
love
of my
you first."
dreams."
He said,
Did
"I love you first." So then, he got
real.
his.
Now, do you
time in.
guys root for USC or Clemson?
Oh, good
So I'm
point.
Clemson. I will
Really?
always.
Oh man,
Is there orange stuff
I
at
never
your
thought
house?
about that.
So I grew up a huge Gamecock fan, actually.
Oh,
And when it was time for me to go to college, my mom said she was an educator, and so she really wanted me to not be swayed. My college decision to be swayed based on 7 Saturdays in the fall, because I love tailgating.
Good
I love
advice.
football. So I was pushed to go explore other universities, and I said that was the downfall right there, because I went to Clemson and immediately fell in love with it. Just the community, the culture, the atmosphere was completely different. And not to diss, University of South Carolina, because I'm sure we've got a lot of Gamecocks. It was very different, is what I tell people. And so, of course, being up there for 4 years and winning 2 national championships while I was
know.
there,
You were there in
of
the
course
heat
I'm
of
going to
it.
fall in love with it.
Yeah.
And so now my blood definitely runs orange, and he's definitely a Gamecock through and through. And so, but it's been easier for me than him lately. But I will say, I try to do a little, smack talk to each other, a little rivalry before the game, and he just doesn't have it. I mean, he doesn't want to talk back. I don't know if he's just
once the Gamecocks
once
are
they get
really,
better.
really good, then you'll hear it.
then he might talk
Yeah.
back to me. Well, we'll see. But yeah, we've survived 5 Carolina Clemson games, so I think we'll be okay.
Yep.
These are good.
Nice.
But we'll see about this year.
So kind of in closing, tell everyone how they can reach out to you if they want to work with you or
For
get
sure.
coached by you.
So social media is definitely one of the best ways to reach out to me. You can DM me on Instagram. That's kind of where I live. I love Instagram and Instagram stories. So send me a DM on there. I also have a website. It's themoreconcept.co. So themoreconcept.co. You can head there and send an inquiry in.
Perfect.
Beautiful.
Thanks for being on the show. That
Thanks
was awesome.
so much.
Here
We're here for the health of it.
for the health of it.